Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing some of your books. So I put a tweet out on Twitter the other day to say I'm going to be reviewing some of your books for an upcoming YouTube video, and for you to send in some of the books that you want me to have a look through and give you some advice on what I would do with these books if I were you. So this is going to be the video where I'm going to go through them. I have got 4 individual books, and like I say, I'm going to go through all of them, say what things you're doing right, what things are you doing wrong, and kind of also give some advice on what I would do if they were my books. So if you want your books to be featured in any of these later videos, I'm going to make lots of these going forward. Follow me on Twitter and then send me a DM with a link on Amazon to your book, and I will look through them. So without further ado, I will jump in now to the first book and say what I would do with this book. So the first book we're going to be looking at is A Beginner's Guide to Learning Spanish, and straight away you can see from the front cover and also the back cover, to be fair, it's a very professional looking book. The front cover is very, very clean, it's very professional, and I wouldn't be put off by this at all if I was a potential buying customer. And again, the back is a very, very similar story. So in terms of the design and the visuals of the book, it does look really good. You can see it's actually performed relatively well because it's got 8 ratings of an average of 5-star, and the BSR is currently at 217,000 in books. So this book is selling, but probably just not to the same amount as it kind of the author would hope for, and there are a couple of reasons I think why that could be. They've also got Amazon A+ content in here, which I think is really good. It's relatively basic in terms of how complex you could make an A+ content, but I think any sort of A+ content is good for your book. But maybe if you want to kind of refine this a little bit more to give a bit more information about the book, that would definitely be something you could do. But again, not necessarily too big, because I think, in my opinion, any sort of A+ content is beneficial for the book. The first thing I would say that I would want to recommend to change with this book is the title and subtitle optimization. So it's called Simple Smart Spanish, which off the top of my head isn't really a phrase that's searched for too much in terms of its SEO on Amazon. For those of you that don't know what SEO is, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and essentially the higher your SEO, the higher you get ranked for on searches on Amazon. So basically, you want to kind of, in an ideal world, have a title and subtitle that kind of contains keywords that people are searching for on Amazon. So Simple Smart Spanish isn't really something that I don't think people are going to be typing in, but I can see that from this book kind of collection here, there's lots of other Simple Smart Spanish, or that's a bit of a tongue twister to get through, books here. So it's kind of a brand that they're going for. So in terms of the actual title, I don't think that's too bad. I don't really mind that because that's your kind of way of differentiating yourself. But if you aren't going to have a really SEO driven title, you definitely need to make sure you have an SEO driven subtitle. So Study Bible for Beginners, you can see being a keyword that someone's putting in, but in itself, it probably is going to link to Spanish, but there's nothing relatively specific to Spanish in here. So what I would look to do if I was to do this book, again, obviously I know you can't go in and change your subtitles. So for the author of this book, if they're going to make a book in future, to optimize your subtitle to have a few more keywords in there, rather than just having a study Bible for beginners. So if you look at the kind of competitive products we've got here, so Daily Spanish for Beginners, how to easily speak Spanish with only 12 minutes. So if someone's typed in speak Spanish in XYZ, they're going to come up here because they've got that in their subtitle. So you could potentially add on the end of here a study Bible for beginners, learn Spanish in 5 easy steps, or in 2 weeks, or kind of whatever. Just aim for some more keywords to put in there. Again, it's really important you don't keyword stuff your title, so maybe just 1 extra keyword or 2 if you're going to be at a push, but obviously don't keyword stuff them and make it look unprofessional. That's definitely something I would do. I've also looked into the competitors of this book and just looked through also some of the keywords that they're using. So they've also learned the basics of Spanish in 7 days, which is a really good keyword to have on the end. I know that book's not necessarily performing too well, but you can still pinch kind of their ideas from their subtitles. And the final thing I would say is there are over 10,000 results for the kind of the search term Spanish for beginners. So it's not the most niched down kind of book to go for. There is quite a bit of competition in there, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. So the first thing I would definitely recommend is trying to optimize your title and subtitle as much as you can for SEO, to rank as high as you possibly can for this book. And the second piece of advice I would do is, kind of because it's relatively not saturated, but there is a lot of competition for here, I think you get quite a lot of success from a product ad, just kind of putting your book against a lot of these. So creating a product ad and targeting these books here, because in my opinion, your book looks as professional, if not more professional, than all of these. And for everyone who's viewing these books, if they come across and see yours, especially considering yours is £5.99 compared to £12.90, £17.97, I think you'd have a really good chance of performing well with a product ad. So the 2 things I would recommend from this book is to further optimize your subtitle and also try and launch kind of a product ad against these other competing books, because your book looks really good in terms of the visuals, and also it's much cheaper than theirs. So I think you would have a lot of success. So that's the first book, and I'm now going to jump on into the second book we're going to be looking through. Is going to be this Big Vehicles Dot Markers activity book, 50 designs to color. And again, straight away, I think the front cover looks really good, and also the back cover looks professional as well. So in terms of the visuals of the book, I think you've got it pretty much spot on. I do really like the front and back cover. I'm not too sure what a dot marker activity book is, but it seems like an interesting concept, and not something we have any complaints with. The first thing I do definitely have a complaint with is this title and subtitle. It's extremely messy, and it looks so unprofessional. You've got some words that are in capitals, you've got punctuations all before the subtitles coming in, you've got this one in capitals, this in lowercase. It's just all a bit of a mess, and you've keyword stuffed so many things. So you've got ... in your title, which is never a good thing to do. Xmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays and parties. It's just really unprofessional looking when you're looking to buy a book as a customer. You can see that this person is just frantically trying to target as many people as they can, and it's something I definitely red flag as anything to do with KDP. Never keyword stuff your titles. And it's not just the keyword stuffing that I have an issue with. The formatting itself of the title is really unprofessional. So again, you've got capital letters in some words and then lowercase in others. You've got full stops. You've got multiple sentences in the title. So for those of you that don't know, the title and the subtitle is basically differentiated in KDP by this colon. So everything before this colon is the title, and everything after is the subtitle. And it just stands out to me there's no structure in either the subtitle or the title. They've just spammed whatever they could in the title to try and appeal to as many people as possible. They've got full stops before the colons, which is just really poor grammar. They've got ... dots in their subtitle, and in my opinion just looks really unprofessional. If I was a consumer looking to buy this, I would be put off straight away. As much as I like the front cover, the potentially the concept, the title just gives absolutely no trust in who I'm buying from, so I definitely would avoid this book. So the first thing I would say is definitely just try and clean up your title and subtitle, make it all kind of the same capitalization, actually target keywords, and don't just keyword stuff your title with Xmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, parties. It just looks really unprofessional and just shows you're not targeting a specific audience, and you're just frantically trying to sell to anyone, and it's really off-putting for a buyer. Another thing I've looked at here is it says Vehicle.Markers activity book, but it seems to me it is actually just a colouring book. It just says 50 designs to colour. So if I'm again looking for this book and I've come across it as in the title as an activity book, I'm not sure why this isn't loading actually, but I'm going to be quite disappointed with the fact it's not even an activity book. It is just a colouring book. There's no activities specifically to do apart from colouring. So again, I know colouring itself is an activity, but activity books on Amazon contain lots of different things. Word searches, colouring in, dots. That's the sort of thing I would expect from an activity book if I'm to buy this. It's just colouring again, so kind of make your mind up on what sort of book you're looking to make here. You've said it's an activity book, but it's actually a colouring book. So again, it doesn't really align to kind of what you're trying to target, and again, just looks very unprofessional. And finally, I've typed in vehicle colouring books because I'm assuming that's kind of what you're going for here. And again, it's very saturated, over 20,000 results for vehicle colouring books. So it's going to be very difficult to stand out, especially when you're comparing some of these that have got quite good reviews. So this only has five reviews, so it's not necessarily had that time on Amazon to be really successful. But it is 57k in books, so it's performing well. This obviously is going to be pretty immovable. 216 reviews, 4.5 star, 2,000 in books. And there's just lots of other vehicle colouring books that are doing really well. If you're going to be able to stand out in this niche, you have to get everything right with your book. You've got your front cover right, in my opinion, but the title is really unprofessional. And also, it's not even a colouring book or activity book. You haven't really decided which one it is. So as a customer, I would definitely be put off by that. So the two things I would look to do, if you're going to make a sort of book like this, try and niche down a bit more from just big vehicles, because it seems to be relatively saturated. There's lots of other books that you're competing with, and if you're going to be able to compete with these, you also have to be more professional and just basically create a better book and a better book listing. You haven't necessarily specified whether it's an activity book or a colouring book, and also, as I said, the title really puts me off. So they're the things I would change for that book if you are to make a similar book going forward. So that's the second book, and now I'm going to jump on into the third. So the next book we're going to be looking at is this 2023-2024 monthly planner. And again, I think it looks really nice and really neat and professional. I like the title and the subtitle. It's very well organized in terms of its capitalization. You've got your title that says exactly what it is on the tin, and some keywords in here as well. So monthly planner, inspirational quotes, to-do list, goals, and note. I'm not sure why it says and note. I'm not sure if they're missing something here. Notes maybe is what they're kind of going for. But generally the title and subtitle, and actually the cover itself, I don't really have too much of an issue with. The A+ content as well is really, really professional looking. So in terms of actually how they've executed the book, there isn't many things I would say that they can improve in terms of book execution. It's independently published, but you can see there's no BSR on it, so it hasn't actually sold any. And there's a really simple and obvious reason why this is. And it's quite sad when I see this, because I think a lot of people do this on KDP. They've clearly put a lot of effort into this book and have actually executed it really well, but they see a lot of people online kind of saying that they can make XYZ out of no content books or journals, or just do this simple planner and you can make XYZ every single month. It's just not what it is, and not how it works. So this planner, as good as they've executed it, it's just way too saturated to produce a monthly planner. There are hundreds of thousands of monthly planners on Amazon, and people always kind of push these sorts of books, or gratitude journals and monthly planners. People on YouTube or Twitter or whatever say that you can make so much money from these books, and if you get one of these books to rank, they are right, you can, but the chances are incredibly slim, and people who are kind of promoting this sort of book haven't even done it themselves, and it's really, really sad to see, because a book like this, I think they've put in a lot of effort and they've executed it really well, but it's just too saturated. So if I just type in here 2022, 2023, 2020, 24 monthly planner, 2-year monthly planner, let's just even go even broader than that and just go for monthly planner, see what comes up. 2 monthly planner, over 60,000 results. So there's just so many books like this that are already out. If you are a customer on Amazon, how on earth am I going to be able to find your book? I don't care how good your book is in terms of the quality of it, it's just impossible to discover. And this is the first thing I always preach about, especially in KDP Mastery, my course. You have to always get your niche research done first before you do anything with your book. A really poorly designed book in a really good niche always massively trumps a really professional looking book in a massively saturated niche. So your niche is more important than your book, and this is a prime example of it. The book's really good, the description is good, the title's good, the front cover's good, the idea is good, but it's just far too saturated. You can see how many results here. How on earth are you going to stand out with that? So again, there's not an awful lot to say about this. I would definitely just stay away from all of these really saturated books. So one thing I would say going forward, if you're looking to kind of make a book like this, check before you actually go ahead and make it. So type in the title of what you're going for and just see what comes up, because in terms of planners, they're super easy for people to make, and therefore so many people are going to be making them. And yes, you might see that 0.1% of people on Amazon who have made hundreds of thousands from these books, but they're just the ones that got lucky and hit the demand, and they're the ones that people go to. It's not always the case. It's very, very difficult to perform well in such a saturated market. So that's the one thing I would say for this book, unfortunately, because it is a really nice book and I really like how much effort's been put into this. It's just far too saturated, and you need to stay away from that. So I'm going to now jump on into the final book, and hopefully it will be less saturated than this one. So for the final book of this video, we're going to be looking at this tarot journal. So again, straight away, there are a few alarm bells that are ringing when I first see this book. The firstly is the actual front cover. It's very difficult to actually read some of the font on this front cover. So tarot journal, I know that's what it says from the title, but glancing at it, especially when you're looking on Amazon, you don't have a huge picture to look at. It's very difficult to actually read this sort of font. So the font and the actual book cover itself, I think it looks kind of basic and doesn't look like it's had much effort put into it, and kind of looks relatively rushed. The second thing again here is unprofessional looking is the title and the subtitle. Again, the capitalization is kind of just all over the place, and so is the punctuation. So you got pages, full stop, size with no space after the full stop. The S isn't capitalized, and you've also got the book dimensions in the front cover. This is actually against KDP guidelines, so never ever put your book dimensions in the front cover. It was actually a mistake I made very early on in my KDP journey. I'm not actually sure if at the time it was against KDP guidelines, but I understand it's an error that you can make, and it seems to me, in my opinion, a bit of a silly one to have in the guidelines. But just be very aware of that. Don't put your dimensions in the front and in the title and subtitle, because it's against KDP guidelines and you can get in trouble for it. So straight off the top of my head, there's a few things that are wrong with this book. It's the cover, the front cover, and the title of the book, and also kind of the font used on the front cover. Just looks very unprofessional, very rushed, and is not something I'd have too much faith buying from. The final point, and kind of relinks to the same one as the previous book, is that the Tarot Journal, again, is just far too saturated, and it's a similar story to the monthly planner in the sense that you've probably seen people make money from journals, and you've tried to niche down into Tarot Journal, but again, it's just far too saturated. Over 30,000 results for Tarot Journal, and you look at kind of the front covers of these books compared to this one here, these are just so much more professional looking than this one is here. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things why this book maybe isn't performing so well. Has it sold a copy? No. So it hasn't sold a copy because it doesn't actually have a BSR. So I'd be a little bit concerned if this was my book. The title and subtitle just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. The punctuation, again, is wrong, and kind of, it just looks unprofessional and definitely looks rushed. I would also include more things related to tarot journaling on the front cover. This front cover doesn't actually tell me anything at all about what the book is like, kind of what it involves, and also, as I said so many times, it's just difficult to read. And then finally, the niche is, on top of that, just far too saturated. So I think this book is very unlikely to actually perform very well at all going forward. So try and improve on those aspects in your next book, and that is how you kind of hopefully be a bit more successful with the next book that you publish. So they are the 4 books I've reviewed. Like I said at the start of this video, if you do want your books to be reviewed in the next kind of video of this series, and then please do give me a link on Twitter. You can send me a DM just with the Amazon link there as well. And also, if you have any questions about any of the things I've mentioned in this video, then please do let me know down in the comments, and I will answer as many of those as I possibly can. And thanks very much for watching. If you want to see more of these videos, then do please subscribe. And if you enjoy the video, then please leave a like, and I will see you in the next video.